discuss. So I would first let me just, as you can see, that today's topic of discussion is supercharge your business agility with optimized IT strategy and how to make it your IT strategy future proof. So that's the main theme of our discussions today. I think it's quite a futuristic topic for discussion. And before I go to the introduce the topic in some more details and set the context before you, let me introduce to all of you our esteemed panel members. So it's we are really fortunate to have a very knowledgeable and enterprising and experienced set of professionals and from the diversified field and especially from the startup ecosystem who have joined us today as panel members. So let me introduce to each of the panel members first, and then I go to the context setting and then we start the session. And at the end of our discussion, where panel members will after the thought of, the participants are free to put their questions in the chat box, and most of the panel members will be very much keen to answer those questions. Before much introduction, let me go to the panel members and introduce to you. We have Mr. Harsh Rajat, who is founder of a startup company called Ethereum Push Notification Services. Then we have Mr. Amit Srivastava, again a co-founder and CTO of Get Advantage, this company. Then we have Mr. Vinay Krishna, founder, director, technology, Pingala Software. Then we have Mr. Rajiv Burnwal, chief technology officer, RapiPay FinTech. We have Mr. Niranjan Ramkrishnan, CEO, My Lab Connect. We have Mr. Kanish Gaur, founder, India Future Foundation. Then we have Mr. Shivendra Pratap Singh. He is a country category manager, PC Services, HP India Sales. We have two gentlemen from Neptune Info Solutions. Mr. Kalpesh Shah, he's the director and co-founder of Neptune Info Solutions. And also we have Mr. Devang Kalti, CEO of Neptune Info Solutions. Before we start the actual discussion, let me put some context to today's topic of discussion. As you can see, today's main agenda of discussion is how to supercharge your business agility with optimized IT strategy. Here I see there are two key elements in this entire discussion. First is the business agility. Today, most of the business, be it small startup companies or large enterprises or medium companies, everybody is required to be agile from various point of view. Obviously, business agility is the main goal, and it has to be supported by technology and other agility. So that's the key factor. Other factor which can enable you to be able to business agile and other aspects of agility, obviously the IT strategy. How do you optimize the IT strategy? How do you make your IT strategy future proof? And also how it is future looking. If you look at today's scenario from various sizes of the companies we have, and if you look back of the current scenario, and also you think of the future, how the pandemic and other situations are unfolding. So there you can see that significant changes have happened in last few years on the users' expectations and how companies are responding to these change scenarios. I'm meaning the users who are the actual users of various companies, either the employees or other there, and the associated devices, the endpoints they are using. So on one hand, there have been huge increase in endpoints and multiplicity of endpoints from desktops, laptops, tablets, mobile phones, and everything has increased many-fold. So with that increase in this number of endpoints and users, so there's increased demand or complexity in terms of administration of those devices, management of devices, and how to maintain those. So you need to maintain the credentials of the users, you have to maintain the security updates and patches, all these things. So that's it's a huge burden on the IT operations of the companies and infrastructure. So these are the one side of the story. The other side is that these are taking a lot of money and time and which is also impacting the user experience and productivity. So that is the downside which most of us are observing today. And the other interesting factor is happening to counter this kind of situations. A lot of companies are going on deploying virtual applications, virtual desktops, especially for the remote workforce, because that has become in the mainstay. And as we know, most of the companies in the future also, this hybrid workplace will continue to be in the domain. So in that case also, when you set up virtual desktop, virtual environment, you have to invest a lot of money. And also apart from money, you have to manage and maintain that hybrid infrastructure. It's not that easy. It's a complexity because you are putting a lot of different infrastructure. You have to have skill set to maintain those infrastructure. You have to manage that not only from the normal management administration, also one of the biggest burden today is how you manage the entire cyber security or information security landscape. So these has resulted in various things. One is the complexity of the entire ecosystem, entire management, entire administration, also time and money, and also how it is impacting the actual user behavior, their productivity, their experience. So keeping in this context in mind, so companies are looking for various solutions in terms of how to manage the IT infrastructure, how to manage the IT security infrastructure, how to manage the entire landscape overall. So that's why one side you have the infrastructure related challenges, and also at the other side we need to have a proper strategy and solution to overcome these challenges. So these challenges are there, but at the same time we need to come out with futuristic strategies, how to mitigate those challenges. So that's the context of today's discussion. So let me start the actual panel discussion with some of the one by one all the panel members who are present. So let me come to Amit. Amit, I would like to know context of this kind of a situation. So we can see there is a hybrid IT infrastructure is happening in the companies. Many companies have gone into cloud. Some companies are going to the cloud. So you have an on-premises infrastructure, you have cloud infrastructure. There's a hybrid, multi-cloud. So it is complex for the people who are on the ground, for their skill set, for their management capability. So it's a complex. So there are huge amount of application workloads, data spread across various segments of your IT infrastructure. So in this context, this complexity and the challenges, and at the same time user and companies demands to remain agile. So what are the challenges you think you have seen in the marketplace, in your company, in your personal experience?
Sure. Thank you, Shubhajit sir. I think the major challenge that most of the IT organizations currently face is finding the right balance between multiple available cloud strategies. I mean, a strategy that could work well for your sales data might not work well, and I'm sure Rajiv would agree, might not work well for your banking data or user sensitive data, customer data for that matter. So you have to find the right balance between the different cloud strategies. The other big challenge that, and I'm sure everyone would agree, is finding and retaining the right IT talent to manage this kind of infra.
Okay.
And the third most biggest challenge that I have faced in the past, during my past experiences, is modernization of legacy applications.
Mm-hmm.
Because as the infra evolves, as the requirements, the regulations evolve, you end up spending a lot more time and effort on managing the old applications, which still play a key and pivotal role in your current IT asset class, but are very difficult to manage.
Right. Okay, thank you very much, Amit. So if I can come to Rajiv, since I think you have some points to add. So at the same question I put across to you. So what do you think are the various, what Amit has covered? Apart from that, if you have any other critical challenge to, based on your experience, to share with us.
So thanks, Subhajit, and I completely agree with Amit what he's saying. So definitely, the very first thing that I would say that anyone has to understand that, okay, what is the kind of the application and the deployment strategy he's looking for.
Right.
And it can vary from organization to organization, from the product to product also, because it could be that I'm building a small application where a physical infrastructure is sufficient, wherein I'm building another type of applications wherein the physical infrastructure management is not feasible because of definitely one of the key aspect is the resources. If I move to cloud, I actually park all these resource constraints or hand over all these resource constraints to the cloud service providers. At the same time, there are lots of pros. There may be few cons also. I work with around 4 to 5 applications here. So when I joined, I had a financial inclusion application, which was a kind of a 2-year-old built model, which was upgraded, which was migrated from the on-prem solution to the cloud. The transaction per second at that time was around I was processing, I would say, like around 30-40 transactions, or around 2.5 lakh transactions per day. With the optimization and the migration, today I'm comfortably able to process around 3 million transactions in a day with a TPS of anywhere around 200 to 250 TPS. There were some central banks, or there are a lot of, because I am a part of the fintech, so there are a lot of compliances and regulations in the place also. So when we say that we want to explore a cloud, we need to keep in mind that, okay, where the data centers are. Almost all the cloud service providers have their data centers today inside the India, because there are compliances or the land of the law that your data should not move away from India, how you are protecting it. So there is one aspect that the data should not go out from India, but there are a lot of aspects that we as an individual need to put in the security checks within our databases or within our servers. And how the firewalls have been placed, how the middlewares have been designed, and how the intrusions can be prevented. Definitely the cost have shoot up to an extent. I would not say that, okay, 10x or something, because these were the costs which were previously there also, but because of the pandemic, because the way we have started working on, this has become the necessities. So for example, a couple of the solutions that I'm using on my, so last week only I went like with my point of sale solution. So I was looking for that, okay, how to prevent the intrusions coming from the IP which are outside or based out of outside India. So then I came up with an IPS and IDS solutions, intrusion prevention system, and intrusion detection system. Then there was another solution that I was looking for. And okay, for example, I have got 100 member in my team, and I'm processing very confidential data or the card data. How to come to know to a point that, okay, it was Rajiv who went into the database and made so and so changes. I can build a solution on my own, which will be time consuming. Again, the resource constraint will be a problem. So I used a file integrity monitoring system. So today, by sitting here only, I know that, okay, who all have touched my system, who all have made the changes to my system, and then I can get hold of that guy. That, okay, when you were not supposed to go into that particular vertical or into that code base, or you were not allowed to log into that, why did you? So because of, thanks to pandemic also, I would say, because these things have become mandatory, and these are also helping us from becoming more and more compliant. And when we say that we are in fintech, there are so and so, or there are various compliances that needs to come into place. Like I'm working on digital lending also, wherein the security or the compliances are internal. But when I say point of sale solution, I have PCI DSS coming into the place. Who audits, monitors my system 24/7. And if I do any mistake, they will come back and issue me a stinker. And if those things are not corrected, they will simply cancel my certification also. When I talk about financial inclusion, RBI is involved. I do have a prepaid instrument where RBI is directly involved, and they keep on asking for compliances and certifications that how these things are. So I would say it's a mix, but yeah, if people have a thought that cloud is very expensive, I would say no, it is not. It depends on your requirement, on your product, that what you're looking for. So I'll just give you another example. So whenever you make a transaction on any POS, there is a print that comes up, a paper print. Now, because of the COVID and all, people, even me, I would say personally, instead of dipping the card and entering a pin, I rely more on the tap, so that I can simply tap my card. Thanks to RBI and NPC, they have increased the limit of the contactless transaction from 2,000 to 5,000.
Yeah.
Now, still the print comes. So I thought, like, why do I have to take a print? I can simply send an e-receipt, which can be sent to you through a message. There will be a URL there, and then you can click on that URL. You can do whatever you want. You can take a print, you can save it for reimbursement purpose. You can share it with your finance team. Now the problem was where to save all this, so many thousands of receipts. I went to S3 bucket. S3 doesn't charge you for storage. It only charges you for the request. It was an optimal solution, and it was a secure solution. So coming back to, again, it's like person dependent. organization dependent, and I have seen that it's not that scary also to
Mhm.
the migration done from the on-prem solution to a cloud solution or vice versa also. There are so
Yeah.
many clouds available today who are giving you abundantly credits because they want you.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. I'll come back to you if time permits, Rajiv.
Sure,
So
sure.
go to, I think I go to Harsh now. Harsh, so my question to you is that there are two things we are discussing. One is that, as Rajiv said, cloud, predominantly people are moving to cloud. It has a lot of pros and also it has cons. So where security is a concern, I think most of the things, most of the companies. And also if you look at the recent past and the future, especially on the financial sector side, the compliance regulation will be more stricter and more stringent. And at the same time, we have this kind of a hybrid work environment, which is going to be the, I think, new normal, right, for all kinds of companies. I think in some way it's good also for the environment, for the other parts of the world. So this hybrid work environment will be there also in terms of people, also in terms of IT landscape infrastructure. So in this context, like today, the key challenges for IT operations, IT management is how do we really have the clear visibility, control, and security of your entire IT environment. Earlier, we had a feeling that we are safe within our premises. So that hypothesis is no longer valid, right? Today, we have a boundaryless organization, boundaryless networks, everything is boundaryless, and everything people can come in from anywhere. So in this kind of context of hybrid environment and this in terms of people, in terms of IT infrastructure, what do you think are the challenges you are facing in your experience, and what will be the challenges going forward?
All right. Thanks, Subhajit, for the question and for inviting me. So, in terms of challenges, I mean, definitely there are challenges. What we are doing is we are taking a huge jump from moving to desktop and from moving to physical data to data centers and to cloud. In my opinion, we started taking that leap and like 4 or 5 years before, but right now it's catching up. The thing is, for security and regulations, I do feel we lag behind a bit. There are ways by which you can protect data, and you don't need to the data available only in India. You can use encrypt. You can use very strong cryptography. In fact, most of the hacks that happen in India, like the database that gets stolen, we get to know that the entire encryption or the entire way which we take security is not really there. Most of the fintech companies, they're leading that effort, but there's still there's a huge gap which is missing over there. So I would not say that keeping the data in India or keeping the data anywhere else matters. making sure that encrypting it properly, and making sure that uh, it's secured is what that matters. I know that regulations don't allow us to move data out of India, but I'm just presenting a very contrarian view because in the end, if you have encrypted data, and even if it's moved out or even if it's on Mars, it will take 2,000 years to crack if it's done right. And that's what my contrarian approach is. In terms of global working, in terms of remote working with COVID, I mean, everyone has adopted the new norm. Most of us will work from remote. It opens up a lot of opportunity to attract global talent, and at the same time, it opens up the same negatives, wherein how to make sure that these global talents we are attracting, we are regulating them right. We are making sure that the security is right, the team member logins, and not anyone else. Uh, I would say this is a problem. This is a new problem, and there will be solutions to them. People have already figured out. People are trying to figure out, or in the process of figuring it out. Most when it comes to us, most of the time we are using cloud technologies, and in a way that's really beneficial for us because we don't have to worry about updates. We don't have to worry about legacy system. They kind of do things for us, and yeah, that's my point of view. I would
Mhm.
encryption and not regulation is the way to go.
Okay, thank you. I'll come to Mr. Niranjan Ramakrishnan to you. I may ask you the same question. So can you give me your perspective on the same question? Like, what are the, in this similar context, what are the challenges you see, and what's the way forward?
So there are like thank you, Mr. Rai. Like a couple of organizations that I represent. One is a manufacturing facility that where we have the dental manufacturing, and the IT landscape there is completely different. The other one is the MyLab Connect, which is the collaboration portal where we are completely on the cloud, right? So the landscapes are completely different in these two organizations. So one of the large manufacturing facility for the dental industry spread it across multiple locations in the US and in India. Especially during the pandemic, also we had to kind of continue to operate out of the facility because we can't shift the manufacturing to home. So we have to really like have the design part of it done at home, and then manufacturing continue to come back to the facility. So it was definitely the challenges that we started facing initially were how do we have the um, with the same kind of bandwidth requirement. We deal with every file is particular gigabits, right? So we used to really deal with a heavy load of files, and our turnaround times are all in hours, not even in days. So we have to really make sure that the bandwidth is there, and then the necessary security controls are there, HIPAA compliance is there. On top of all that, we need to really ensure that whether it is the desktop requirement or integration with machines, everything has to be taken care. When it comes to the platform that we host, there we were very clear because everything is on the cloud. Even the development was on cloud, hosting is on the cloud, the customer data was on the cloud, everything was stored in very secure environment. There things were completely a lot easier for us to manage and maintain it. So the challenge wise, I would say, when it comes to the complex environments such as manufacturing, also there is a component of design and kind of IT services part of it. It really like puts a huge challenge to us. But somehow we managed to give them some kind of a mobile infrastructure where even if you have to stay in the hotels or kind of guest houses, we actually replicated the infrastructure for them at those places, and we have to really make sure that the connectivity was there as well. So I would say having the cloud infrastructure in place really helped us a lot, and we had to just increase the little bit of bandwidth on every location. We were able to manage the complete platform on premises, and we were able to manage more than 20,000 plus doctors and information also in a secure manner.
Okay, fine. So obviously you are coming from a different segment and industry. So I'll come back to you. So now let me go to Mr. Shivendra Pratap Singh, because to get some other perspective from the other side, like same, you have heard the context, right? What are the challenges most of the companies here, since most of the startups are companies are here. So these are the various challenges which are faced by startup companies. And I believe, because I have worked and seen a lot of companies on the medium large, so they have also similar challenges. There may be scale may be different or slight complexity, but challenges remain the same. So this kind of challenging environment and how the things are really changing in the context of cloud, data, and user behavior, hybrid workplace, and how the future of work is going to unfold. So what do you think are the future strategies and future solutions are looking like from the OEM and other product manufacturer side? What do you think are going to change to address these challenges?
Thank you, Shobhit. So during last 1.5 years, the entire landscape has changed dramatically. And we have seen customers asking for those kind of things which were never asked before. So, for example, earlier, employees were working from office, and there was no need of additional services which is related to home. But now, since people are working from home, it becomes very important for them that how do they manage the IT infrastructure, same kind of support level, same kind of service level. How can they provide for their users at the home place? So that's something which becomes very challenging, and we have been very we or other companies also have been very, innovative about how do we manage the situation. Now, one very important thing which has come out from all the things is to manage this kind of hybrid environment, IT automation or AI is very important. You can't run all this show with a manual intervention. So you have to decide a strategy. How do you enable automation or AI in the entire IT infrastructure? That's one thing which is very important. Second thing is that most of the organizations, they have their core objective. Obviously, the organization who has to deliver their core strategic objectives, for example, manufacturing or financing or any other vertical. So they have to focus on their core strategy, and they don't have expertise to manage the IT infrastructure. So that's where it's always important to decide whether can you outsource this entire thing to somebody who has the experience of managing this hybrid kind of environment, especially now because you don't have presence. You cannot support your employees on a pan-India basis. You can support your employees in the office, but how do you support IT in the remote location? So that's where it's important to have partnership with organizations who can support your employees at user level. I think these two important things. One is the automation and AI implementation, and the second thing is that looking at some kind of outsourcing model wherein you give outsource to some partner who can manage your IT infrastructure on pan-India basis.
Okay, thank you. So let me come to Vinay. Vinay, you are again coming from another different segment of the ecosystem. So if I put the same question to you, what are the things, solutions, or what are the future looks like from the challenges we are discussing so far? What is your thought?
Yeah, thank you. and thanks for uh, inviting me on this panel. Yeah, I'm also having similar to what so far people have talked about, but I would like to start with one thing, and we all have heard about that, and that is always there, right? That necessity is the mother of invention. If you look at when we talk about IT, when we are talking about security, when we are talking about compliance, and especially on the fintech side or maybe healthcare side, just look at 2 years back how the entire system was. And I was part of some of the investment bank and other places, right? I have worked there. I have seen if I'm working with two a team who is on two different locations, and if I'm moving from one to another, even if I have to do a RDP, I have to. It's a huge process. You cannot get just like that, right? Because there is a compliance. What is the current situation? Everybody is working from the remote location. They are having that laptop. They are working from that way, right? It is all being done, and we are doing it quite well. And recently, I have heard, especially in case of Bangalore, there is one bank development center. They have just moved out completely, and they told that for all of their employee that it will be work from home only. So there is no end date, and we are doing it happily, right? Just remember when we were entering to any healthcare kind of companies where they were working on, we were talking about data privacy and all those things, right? And just in the 2 years, that entire situation has been changed. And how it has been changed, whether it was not possible earlier, because we were feeling like it's not possible. We have that in that type of system in the place. We have the infrastructure also. And as rightly somebody was telling, like, yes, we have to see that case to case basis, how we can wisely utilize those things. So sometimes what happens, we are having always a barrier that this is not possible in this domain. But your situation will make you to do everything. And that's how we are talking about agility. We have not to only do the agile. That is what we usually in agile world we say, rather than doing agile, can we be agile? And that's what we are talking about in terms of agility. So we have, like, if we are talking about cloud, right? We have all the different kind of cloud solutions available. We can use it in wise way, that how we can want to make sure it is more secure, more privacy is being maintained. How with respect to my domain and my application need, I can make sure that all those things has been get addressed there. So that is one thing. The another thing is, yes, of course, we keep telling that, okay, legacy application, I completely agree with that, and that is there as well, right? But again, it's only how we are creating our future plan, right? That is where we have to actually work on. If we are not thinking right now for our future, probably we are just trying to address what was there in the past.
Right.
So that is another thing. And if you look at, there are lots of I'm seeing kind of new things, a new way of working is happening here. If you look at like a DevOps we were talking about, right, where we are trying to make sure that development and operations, they are actually working together. It's not just an automation, but it's also how we are able to fine tune our entire process from the development till your maintenance, deployment, everything, right? Which is right now quite enhanced if you look at 5-10 years back. But still there are lots of things which needs to be utilized wisely, because the situation is not the same what we were having 5 to 10 years, and in future also it's going to be in the same way, right? So one is like we have to look at within the employee, like how we can leverage those things whatever is there right now in correct way, right? Which is like going to cloud, going to having that lots of different type of automations, lots of good tools that we can use, and we can make the lean process in the system, which is right now, if you look at usually in case of IT, whatever region it was quite heavily process oriented. The moment that DevOps movement has come, we have started adopting those lean practices, and we have made it much better right now. But yes, there is lots of ways to make it more better. And now we are hearing about DevSecOps and all, right? So that is something also AI ops that we can just use it. and we have to just look at like how we can learn from what we are having right now as a challenge, right? Those are some of the things which I feel like we have to keep learning and practicing those. Probably that's how we can be moving out.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot. Do you have Kanish, Mr. Kanish Gaur in the panel discussion? Can you hear me, Kanish? Are you available? I saw you briefly, but I'm not sure whether. Okay. So I would like to go to Mr. Shivendra Pratap Singh. So you are talking about that. See, since we are seeing a lot of everything is turning into services, right? Starting from SaaS and so how do you see this new challenges can be addressed by the services you are referring to? What kind of services is possible which you can offer, which will really at least some of the problems we have been talking about in terms of complex, how to reduce the complexity, how to reduce the manageability and other issues. What is your thought on those areas?
Yeah, so as everyone is calling out that they have a lot of challenges in terms of managing the their core business objectives. So what we have built up and what we think is a model which can work very well for the startup or any growing organization or even for large enterprise also is the model which is as a service model. So anything, because we know that everything is moving towards as a service kind of model. So why do you want to invest or why do you want to buy a device for your applications or using for your requirement? So instead of that, you can go for a concept which is something known as device as a service or PC as a service concept, wherein you don't have to worry about procuring the device or managing the device life cycle and eventually dispose the device. Rather than you can you can buy this as a service. So you can sign up a contract for let's say 3 years, and then you use the device, and after 3 years you can refresh the device with the new or latest technology. So what happens that way you can actually you can keep focusing on your core strategic objectives while companies like HP can manage your infrastructure or a device related requirement end to end. So you don't have to worry about that once we have to deploy the devices in a short period of time, or how do we take care of deployment, how do you take care of management of those devices, how do you take care of disposal of those devices. All those things can be taken care of end to end through this model. So I think as a service model, not only for just like it is working for other sectors, I think this for devices service model also is going to help a lot, especially for the organizations who are actually building up and growing fast.
Okay, fine. So Amit, you have any thought on this? What Mr. Shivendra Pratap Singh is telling? Do you think that will be one of the futures in the endpoint segment?
Yeah, I think especially in the past one and a half year, we have seen a couple of lockdowns. We have seen the teams getting distributed over pan India level. It becomes very difficult especially for young teams to manage their IT assets. The kind of machines we have to give to our development team or DevOps team. I think these kind of services will help, especially in the kind of a distributed environment that we are working in, and add more value, reducing the burden of management, of course, in current times.
Okay. So I see Kanish. Kanish, you are there because we are looking for you. Can you hear me?
I'm there. Sorry, my video was not playing on the laptop, so I was just trying to.
You can hear me. We can see you.
Yes, I can hear you.
We just want to have some quick responses on this thought process. The challenges we have talked about on these various challenges on the hybrid environment from the data center perspective. hybrid workforce environment, and we are talking what are the future solutions we should look at to make the IT strategy better to cope up this. So just share a couple of.
Sure. So I think the pandemic has changed the way we do our businesses today. We have seen that a lot of solutions have to be enabled through automation and through our right use of technology. There have been lockdowns. Lockdowns might happen again. So the number of people which will be there at data centers is going to be less. So how we allow remote connectivity, how we allow work from home to stay for a longer time, and how we allow hybrid working models to continue is going to be very, very important, especially during the times of the pandemic. And how do we continue operations? So how do I take remote control of another device and enable services to be delivered is going to be the case. Also important is how do we build up multiple service layers? So we have seen that SaaS is there, but and we've talked about democratization of SaaS in the past, but how do you allow democratization of platform as a service? How do you allow democratization of infrastructure as a service, especially within the data center stream, is going to be very important going forward tomorrow. We have seen the way cloud is transformed, but cloud is only limited to certain business applications today, be it HR, be it finance, be it sales. But what about administration? What about facility management? What about third-party suppliers? How do you automate that? How do you manage third-party suppliers? Because every business has multiple third-party service providers today. So that is going to be a very important area. And if you look at employee safety, is going to be important. So how do you allow people to connect once they come in without making any touch points, enabling minimal physical touch points, enabling more digital identity authentication, identity and access management? That's going to be really important. So the use of Internet of Things, IoT, is going to play a very critical role, be it for allowing people to check in, for accessing services. That's going to be. Plus, on top of your technologies which are going to be there, say camera, how do you have smart cameras? How do you have AI and ML enabled on cameras for detection? So you don't need people to punch into an attendance system once they log in. There should be a camera-based system where there could be attendance which could be taken using an AI-enabled system where somebody can just identify and say, okay, this person has come in, and a discovery could be done. So this is going to be very important. Another important aspect is how do you work on digital asset discovery? You're going to have multiple digital assets today, but how do you discover how are those assets placed? How do you ensure governance on those assets is going to be a key area today, because a lot of organizations are creating digital assets, but they don't know where the inventory is, how their asset portfolio is, and how their architecture is set up. So that's going to play a very important role.
Okay. Thank you, Kanish, for your inputs. So, Mr. Devang, I just would like to come to you. So, with your vast experience, and also you're the you're CEO of Neptune Infrastructure. So, you have heard the challenges, the problems most of us facing, especially in the current context, and which I think will going to be there in the future, and a lot of thought processes of the requirement solutions we are talking about. So now one side, everybody has to be agile, right? Like, as I said, not only agile as a concept of from the development perspective, but for agile from every mindset and other aspects also. And at the same time, we need to have our IT infrastructure very, very strong, robust, resilient to scale up according to requirements. So these are the two very challenging situations we are. So in this kind of a situation, what would be your advice to have we are talking about building make a future-proof IT strategy, right, for the IT technology leaders. So what will be your key advices, some of the key pointers to you, according to you? You can unmute, please. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, thank you, Subhajit. Thank you very much. So most of our panelists had similar questions, and their key focus areas are like how to enable the IT solution, how to innovate, and biggest challenge is the cost agenda. And the key problem areas what we saw is addressing technical debts, controlling technical spends, improving how technology can better serve the business, freeing up your soil data, securing your enterprise, and investing into a new technology solutions. So basically, with this digital transformation, which is accelerated with the continuous investment over last few years, and with a lot of technology advancement, and with right type of infrastructure planning, which includes the digital payment solution, remote work from home capabilities, and you're securing your end user customer data, is the key challenge which all the CIOs and CEOs of the basic companies are facing. So basically, when you say your business is to be more agile, more secure, more reliable, it is also the pace at which you are delivering all this solution to your end users, which is very important. So with the help of this automation practice, which is fast thinking and redefining the overall development life cycle, which includes remote collaboration and remote teams working, will help this business grow further. So our basic focus area should be a security, providing strong connectivity, and supported by this cloud infra, which most of the CIOs will agree, so that if you have suddenly a booster in the basically a workload or speed needed, you can just do it over a night. Means it doesn't take more than rather than having the physical infra. If you outsource it to a cloud vendor, it becomes very fast. Same way, I'm talking about your infra side. As Mr. Shirendra said, with work from home environment. What is the issue is all your remote workforce are working from home. So biggest challenge what you face is how do you support them? How do you, so you need to have a right vendor who can support across India, across the geographies of wherever the users are. And like because when they are working from home, and you need to have a more secure endpoint devices also. So all these things can be done when you outsource this, when you how you are doing on your data center side, the cloud as a service you are using. You are not investing into the physical hardware infra. Same way we can do at the endpoint side by just outsourcing it to a vendor who can manage your infra, who can manage your endpoints, who can manage your servers, and they can scale it up over a night when just as a click of a button. So if you need say 500 endpoints to be provided across the 500 locations in India, and you want that to be deployed in say next 3 days, so you need to have a vendor who can manage these things. And when this thing can be done, your scalability is not a challenge to you. If you have because disruption in supply chain, different availability of the goods is also a challenge in this new normal. So with the right type of approach and with the right type of vendor and the OEM provider, as Mr. Shirendra said, Mr. DaaS as a service, which is device as a service, once you enroll to them, you overcome all these challenges. So this is the right way to approach for the future IT building. This is what I want to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rajiv, if I can ask you just a short reply to the current question. So as a CTO of this fintech company, RapiPay, so obviously, what is your thoughts? What's the future strategies you think you and others should adopt to overcome the situation and make it much better in terms of scalability, resilience, and security?
Say, Subhajit, I would say that from last couple of years, I have been exclusively working on the transformation or the digital transformation. And there are so many things to do in the digital transformation, but my bosses, my stakeholders, my board of directors ask me two things. That, okay, when I'm going to do a digital transformation, what is the dollar benefit or the cost benefit that I'm bringing to the table? And second, most important, how my customer experience is getting enhanced or increased. When we talk about this too, then there are a lot of things that we do as an organization, and everybody does. So within digital transformation, heavily people have started using artificial intelligence. I built an mobile applications. So to be more precise with a digital KYC application or digital eKYC application, which I named as an merchant onboarding. So what I saw as a challenge on this digital transformation was that to onboard one new customer or to acquire one new customer, the company was spending around 1,200 to 1,400 rupees. The cost was not the only thing. The lead time to actually onboard a customer was anywhere from 3 to 5 days, because definitely there are central banks involved into the like KYC processes. There is a process defined by the ministries and the central bank that this is how it needs to happen. I just thought that, okay, it's something like we are using a legacy system. I went to a couple of organizations also, and they started asking for some hefty money, and it was a mix and match broken system. I took that initiative here. I built my own digital eKYC solution, which is live on the App Store also. The very first thing with the digital transformation, the cost got drastically reduced from 1,200 rupees to less than 20 rupees. The lead time to onboard a new customer got reduced from 3 to 5 days to less than 5 minutes. Being compliant with all the RBI policies, compliances, not giving any gaps anywhere. This is where we are leading towards. I used machine learning, the Google Vision inside it, that, okay, it could be that when manually a KYC is happening, I'm in front of Subhajit, I'm validating that, okay, these are your KYC document, and I'm seeing matching Subhajit's real face with the documents. I used facial recognition. I asked Subhajit at the end, say that, okay, you click a live picture of yours. And then I was extracting your image from your PAN card, Aadhaar card, or whatever the KYC document. I was matching both of them. And then there was a success score that was getting generated. If it is more than that threshold, which at the moment I have set 95%, that means this is Subhajit's document and this is Subhajit as a real person. Subhajit is good to go for onboarding. That is the benefit of the digital transformation. And with that, like, there are hundreds, thousands of merchants which are getting, or customers which are getting onboarded quicker, cost saving, and less resources or manual resources are being utilized now. Being compliant with all the policies and the regulations which are there in our country. Similarly, I built the OCR solution. I think some ring is happening. Similarly, I built the OCR solution so that my idea was that, okay, my application should be a human touchless process. So even though when you are entering your KYC information, I'll say that, okay, you don't touch the application. You simply scan your KYC document. I'll do the OCR. I'll pick out all the details like your PAN number or the KYC document number, your name, your date of birth, and I will send that to the government agency to authenticate that is this true or not. That is the power. So that's what I can give you an example, a real-time example. That how it does.
Mr. Singh, would you like to have some more details on the kind of services you are talking about? You like to present something to all of us?
Yeah, sure. So let me just talk about the device as a service concept. Give some 5 minutes, quick preview about how does it look like. So, organizer, can you give me the presentation access? Thank you. Okay. While this screen brings up, I will just talk about, is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can see it.
Okay. So I would just like to talk about this device as a service concept, and the objective of device as a service concept is to reduce the complexity of device lifecycle management. And what it includes are three main things: the hardware, which you can select from entire hardware range of HP, which is desktop, notebooks, thin client, workstation, or any other accessories, or any other third-party solution or hardware which you want to include in the solution. Along with that, you just choose, okay, what kind of service level you want. For example, you can say, I want next business day solution or 2 business day solution, or you want support pan-India basis, or you can decide, okay, you want to cover accidental damage. So those kind of things you can decide. And then once you decide hardware and the kind of service you want for your organization, on top of that, we add this analytics, which analytics takes care of, proactiveness of the support models. For example, it can tell you if the hard disk is going to fail. So instead of waiting for the hard disk to actually fail, proactively we can dispatch the hard drive to the user location and replace the hard drive before actually it fails. Similarly for battery also, if the battery is going to fail, it can give you alert, or it can give you information regarding what is the reason for blue screen error. So if a blue screen error is coming because of some activity, some particular issues, then you can take that action around that those drivers and update the driver, and then you are good to go. So it's basically trying to see that how do we make incidents to zero for your users. So that's the power of this analytics. And then we do integrated financing, which means that we are making it as a leasing model for you. And we combining all these 4 things together, we can charge you on a per seat per month kind of basis. So what all you have to do is you have to decide on the hardware and the services level which you want, and we can give you a price which you have to pay on a monthly basis for a fixed period of time, which is 3 year, 4 year, 5 year, whatever the term you choose. And the advantage of these services are, you can decrease your IT workload, you can improve employee experience, and strengthen your security profile, and free up and redirect, cash flow, and you achieve the predictable and reduced cost for your organization. Some of the key benefits, right, of these devices, of this concept is, first of all, it reduces the IT cost and complexity with the help of world-class lifecycle services and the AI-driven analytics. Second is it frees up your cash flow. So we have the flexible payment terms options, or we also have the options of flex up or flex down. So which means that after 1 year, if you decide out of your 500 devices, you want to reduce 110 devices because the business is not doing well. So and you don't want to pay for those 10 devices. So you have that option of flex down. Or similarly, if your business is increasing, you have the option of flex up. You can buy additional. You can take additional 10 units in the contract. So that flexibility is there, and also you don't have to invest upfront in terms of buying the hardware. You can also, with this help of this analytics, you can also improve the employee experience. There are ways of keeping employees productive and measure employee experience, and on top of that, it gives you built-in security capabilities, and there are additional security services which can be added onto this solution. So in nutshell, if you look at the the key value proposition which comes from this, one is that you get the customer success manager who can drive the KPIs. You get one vendor accountability. You don't have to go for a different vendor for leasing product or services. One vendor can manage everything for you. We have these tools which can take care of incident to zero, or give you pre-failure alert, and end coordination from door-to-door home delivery or zero-touch deployment of the devices. You get remote and on-site support with tailored service levels. And in terms of predictable cost, your cash outflow is always predictable. So you know that how much you are going to pay for the entire period. You get cost optimization. You have the flexibility in terms of as per the business demand. You can increase, you can flex up or flex down. You get a consolidated monthly invoice for ease of processing and record keeping. You don't have to have monthly and multiple invoices. One invoice can take care of everything. And finally, we have the solution which works on zero trust technology. So you can actually defend against cyber attacks, which can be added into this DAS solution. And all the threat analysis and threat assessment are real time and actionable. And you can there is the option to self manage, or HP can manage your infrastructure. So these are the key value proposition. So whole objective of this entire device service solution is that you focus on your core objective, and we manage the things which can be managed by experts. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Niranjan, Mr. Singh was talking about like the kind of services, device as a service. So what do you think, do you think it is going to be useful for many of the enterprises going forward?
Definitely, it's going to make a huge sense for somebody like us, especially with every expansion of ours in terms of, for example, if you want to expand our delivery by 100 seats and maybe 200 units per day, per week, etc. Our biggest challenge is in terms of expanding the infrastructure also. So it's a huge cost, and it's a huge capex for us. Bringing not only the computer devices, also the dental devices, etc. So if any desktop as a service will really easily help our CFO to kind of plan the costing, and we can really work on a much better easy way of commercializing, and our expansion will be much faster. So honestly, for somebody like us, desktop as a service will be a huge advantage, I would say.
Okay. What about Harsh? What is your opinion on the same thing? How for the future do you think these are going to be in place?
I think this is the future. I really think that the infrastructure which we have, it will fade away. It's up to the companies whether it fades away faster or slower. I would recommend fading it away faster because there's a lot of advantage to having these things on the cloud or as a service. You can update faster. You don't have to worry about maintenance. You can have you can dynamically add more power or more space whenever you want. So
Okay.
I think this is a future, and we all should be moving towards it.
Because yeah, we have been familiar traditionally. Most of the large companies or most of us didn't have the much choice. Everybody went for a capex model to buying that endpoints. Then of last few years, I have seen that we OPEX model, where through leasing model, a lot of companies used to buy from the OEMs. So Mr. Singh, so what's the difference between the leasing model we used to follow and the device as a service? What are the key differences?
Yeah, and I will go back to the same slide which I showed last slide. It's basically the basic difference between a leasing model and as a service model is that in a leasing model, you buy a hardware on a lease, which means that you don't sign for any service contract. As in, if there is a problem in the hardware, you will still continue to pay for the for the leasing company. You don't have that luxury of saying that I'll not pay because device is not working. So first and foremost, you get the one vendor accountability. Second thing is that device as a service thing manages your complete life cycle, and you not only moving from capex to opex, but also you are ensuring that you don't have to invest your time, energy, and efforts of your IT team to manage these devices. So these are the two basic differences. One is the one vendor accountability, and second thing is the cost saving in terms of managing the device lifecycle.
And how do you really scale up and scale down? So that will be always a question for us. How do you do that?
And that's the advantage with a company like us have that because we already have the infrastructure. Wherein let's say tomorrow an organization says that tomorrow I want to expand from 1,000 devices to 1,100 or want to go for additional 500 devices. So we don't have to invest too much in terms of in terms of manpower, in terms of infrastructure or tools or automation. We have everything inbuilt. We have to just ensure that we have the devices to fulfill the requirement, and then immediately it can be just plugged into the same kind of support level, same kind of atmosphere, same kind of environment. So that way we provide that flex up option and or the flex down both kind of option. I mean, both the things are important. Business will have ups and downs both, right? So if there are businesses doing good, obviously it's very important, and then how SP can grow with you. Or if the business is going down, we also make sure that you don't have to pay for the service which you are not availing.
And is there any sort of minimum threshold you think for this to be really cost-wise, otherwise beneficial? There's a number, threshold number?
No, actually not, because when if you look at organizations which have 25 employees or 50 employees, they also can go for this solution. And actually, in fact, it makes more sense for the smaller organizations because they don't have to invest in the complete IT infrastructure. For larger enterprise, still they will evaluate because they will have the complete IT setup, and for them to moving toward devices as a service, they have to evaluate not many things. For the smaller organization, I mean, if they go for this kind of concept, they don't have to invest on their IT resources, right? They don't have to worry about hiring an engineer, having some automation in the organization for IT device management. So all those things can be outsourced to this device as a service concept.
Okay. So while I asked all the other audience members to put their questions in that chat box, I will ask Kanish, what is your view? We're talking about device as a service for the future. So what do you think your view on this?
So I think for device as a service for future, there have to be multiple aspects which have to be considered into account. One very important aspect is availability. The biggest issue when we talk about device as a service is availability of those devices, continuity of operations, and then aspects such as confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Those play a very, very important role. So how do you build up performance? How do you build up user experience? How do you build up trust and security as part of this will play a very important role. Because some of these factors will decide whether customer is willing to accept. See, at the end of the day, customer is more interested in enablement as a service, whether you do it through a device or through a device as a service, that really doesn't matter. But if you're introducing a new concept, how you change the experience or how you improve the experience will play a very, very important role. So some of these factors will be important, which have to be taken into account. Service resilience is also going to be there, because if it is device as a service and if the device does not become available, what kind of redundancy that you have built in will play an important role. We have seen in case of India, there have been multiple power grid failure as well. There have been attack on the Chinese, from the Chinese on the Indian information infrastructure. We had power grids in Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana also get impacted. Now, if a power grid level fails from the data center where this is been provided, what would be the alternate levels of connectivity? So those have to be taken into account. This is the reality that we are living in today. So, right. So if you're building up tier 3, tier 4 data centers today, we've seen typically they becoming a part of specific zones in Hyderabad. But if you have to enable device as a service, then some of these factors will play a key component.
Yeah, so that you were right, because I have seen, based on my personal experience, one today user wants every to be up and running all the time. So where we have really normal traditional IT services, there are a lot of gaps, right? So especially that kind of process, we follow a lot of process, but at the end of the day, we see most of the end users are mostly unsatisfied, unhappy with the situation. So that need to be addressed. At the same time, obviously, this, as you said, so security and other manageability need to be addressed. And another thing I see in a country like India, and today many people may be working from home in a remote places. So this availability and kind of logistic part should be. So I think if these are taken care of, it has a lot of future, especially in our country, where it has huge geographical region and kind of expectations of users of devices, and turnaround time is very fast, because in a normal apex opex model we see there's a lot of huge turnaround time from when we order a device and we get it through a partner of the OEM. So if those are addressed, I think it has a good potential. Okay. If you have any other questions otherwise we can go to the concluding session of the today's discussion. You have anything to ask at this point, or we can go to the conclusion of the session? Okay. So I would like to request Mr. Kalpesh Shah, he's a co-founder of Neptune Info Solutions. If you can give your thought and conclude the session.
Good afternoon, everyone. This event is sponsored by Neptune in association with HP. We are thankful to all our speakers for giving us valuable insight and their suggestions on very interesting topics on hybrid IT environment and how one can implement, execute, and maintain it, taking care of all security challenges. We are also thankful to Mr. Sevendra for giving us valuable insight on that. Thanks, Devang, for sharing your views on IT infrastructure, which can fulfill our future expectations. We, Neptune Info Solutions Private Limited, are your solution partner. Please reach out to us for any kind of requirement on designing, managing your IT network and infrastructure, security solution, cloud solution, HP Dash, and short-term and long-term rental of laptop and desktop. So once again, thank you very much, everyone, for being a part of this wonderful virtual event. Thanks once again.
Okay.
So, thanks.
Yeah, so I'd like to thank all the panel members for their time and participation and your effort in sharing your valuable thoughts. And also I'd like to thank all the audience members who joined in to listen to this discussion. Thank you very much, and I hope it had some kind of a insightful view of the things we try to address. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Everyone, appreciate it.